You guys may have heard of this guy, Russell Vought from Project 2025. He's very involved in the government shutdown that's happening. If you don't know who this is, he is a writer on Project 2025. Now, I don't know if you guys remember all the stuff about Project 2025 that came out like forever ago when all this stuff was going on before the election took place, but an undercover reporter got a meeting with Russell Vought, which is the guy on screen here, and leaked this footage from Russell Vought. Listen to what happened here.
Two undercover reporters posing as donors are about to meet one of the key architects of Project 2025, the radical plan for Trump's second term, in a hotel suite rigged with hidden cameras.
Nice to meet you. Would you like coffee or something?
I'd love coffee, yeah.
Great.
Meet Russ Vought.
Russell Vought, the former director of the Office of Management and Budget.
He's been called...
Which is what he is now, I believe. And again, he was one of the writers of Project 2025. If you're watching this 5 years in the future, Project 2025 is this gigantic manifesto, like 900-page document about how they're going to destroy the U.S. government. And they're already, pretty far through it. They're about 50% of the way done, and they're only like 9 months into this administration, this regime. This is a Project 2025 tracker, 48% of the way done. Promote fertility awareness-based methods as opposed to contraception for family planning, CDC. Impose Medicaid work requirements, housing and urban development, end property appraisal and valuation equity programs, which are a set of guidelines for producing home appraisals that are free of racial, ethnic, or any other form of bias. Stop federal funding for NPR and PBS. I mean, everything that Trump's been doing lately, this is all from Project 2025.
The most dangerous MAGA diehard you've never heard of.
I am opposed to the Department of Education because I think it's the Department of Critical Race Theory.
The Russ Vought were comrades in arms.
Formerly a cabinet member and chief lieutenant in the first Trump admin.
I want to thank Russ for doing an incredible job.
He now runs a group called Center for Renewing America.
An organization that I helped turn into the Death Star that is accomplishing all the debates that you are reading about. I think you have to rehabilitate Christian nationalism. You have the largest deportation in history, block funding for Planned Parenthood. I want to be the person that crushes the deep state.
I mean, they are the deep state, of course. Like, Trump is the deep state. He has created the deep state.
What does the deep state even mean?
The deep state is an old conspiracy term used to refer to this, this evil underlying entity within the government that operates to keep everything working for the rich. Basically, it's a populist term, a populist conspiracy. Deep state is often used to refer to like any political enemies that the Trump administration has or that anybody affiliated with the Trump administration has. There is no deep state. It doesn't exist. But Donald Trump is lining his administration with cronies, with corrupt people who are willing to destroy the function of the government to get richer. That is a quote-unquote deep state forming out. It's there. Oligarchs. They're oligarchs, and they have created a deep state. So when he says this deep state stuff, it's all conspiracy nonsense.
Is one of the key authors of the blueprint for a second Trump administration.
Project 2025.
It's an ambitious 920-page blueprint.
Like eliminating the Department of Education.
The mass firings of civil servants.
Banning access to the abortion pill and further restricting abortion rights.
In recent weeks, the plans have become so controversial that Trump has been forced to distance himself.
He said he doesn't know anything about it all the way back then. Do you remember that?
Sort of the opposite of the radical left, okay? You have the radical left and you have the radical right. And they come up with this, I don't know what the hell it is. It's Project 25.
Are you ready? I know nothing about Project 25.
Obviously a lie, right? We can count all of that as lies, shouldn't we?
I haven't seen the document. I don't intend to really see the document.
But behind closed...
He hasn't seen the document, but he's managed to recreate it almost perfectly.
Yeah, everything that he's doing was outlined in Project 2025. Everything. And by the way, next step is to force you to attend church every week, or at least to pay church tithes. You have to be a church member. That is one of the next steps. Yeah.
By the way, guys, check out my new shop, owenmorgan.com/shop. I have a bunch of really cool designs on there.
Doors. Vote tells us not to take Trump's disavowal seriously.
I expect you to hear 10 more times from the rally, the president, distancing himself from the left's boogeyman of Project 2025.
Yeah. And you're not worried about that?
I'm not worried about it.
Okay.
He's running against a brand. He is not running against any people.
Okay.
He is not running against any institutions.
And that is surprisingly smart for him. If he doesn't come outright and say, oh, I support blah, 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 he has plausible deniability, and MAGA has plausible deniability. That's his entire goal here. Anytime you hear him discount something or say, I'm not going to do whatever, he likely is going to do it. He's just not he's not letting people know that, even if as a whole we can understand and recognize that. MAGA won't, and MAGA can't, and MAGA will say whatever they can to disagree.
Absolutely, and it's boiling the frog. Of course, like, the water is turned up to 212 degrees. It's boiling now, and we all see that. But MAGA doesn't. They don't see that. They don't realize that they are boiling right now. They're in boiling water. And the more they move MAGA over, the more they shift the goalposts, the more they shift the Overton window, the more extreme it gets, and the more okay with it they are. I mean, can you imagine a MAGA person, MAGA-Potamian, if you will, 8 years ago, saying, like, a year into Trump's term, his first term, saying interracial marriage is bad, and black people need to segregate from white people, and I want a full Gestapo running through the streets, literally arresting and zip-tying children.
They'd be shunned.
They would never have accepted that. They're moving them over little by little. That's how it's worked. And the end game of Project 2025 is effectively The Handmaid's Tale. I don't know if you guys have ever seen The Handmaid's Tale, but it's this TV show about, like, if a theocracy took over, if a theocratic organization took over. They called it Gilead in the show, and it was a full authoritarian state, like, that murdered people wantonly, guns everywhere. They forced women to, stay in the home. They weren't allowed to work. They weren't allowed to question a man. It was real. I mean, and they killed anybody who was not a Christian, that kind of thing. That's what they're talking about right now. That's what I don't know if they're going to kill non-Christians, but they're certainly going to try to deport them. Joel Webbin, Doug Wilson, heavily involved in all of this. Russell Vought talks about deporting non-Christians all the time.
Also, deport them to where? Because they keep saying stuff like this, where they're going to deport Native Americans, for example. There was an event that happened recently. They said they were going to deport Bad Bunny. He's a music artist. He's from Puerto Rico, which is a U.S. territory. So
the disturbing part about this is we think to ourselves, where would they deport them to? You deport people to their home country, right? But that's not the case anymore. Trump tried to deport Kilmar Abrego Garcia to Libya, I think. Was it Uganda? I don't remember. Never been there, has no ties to that country, and it's in the middle of a civil war right now. I think it is Libya. Deport him to one of their prisons there in Libya. Why? Because cruelty is the point. Where would you deport Bad Bunny? To Libya, in the middle of a civil war, and sit in one of their prisons.
And my point here is that, like, it's not deportation. They're not trying to deport Christians. They're not trying to deport Bad Bunny. They're trying to get rid of them.
Yeah,
ethnic non-Christians.
Cleansing.
Yeah.
Ethnic cleansing is what it is.
They're trying to get rid of anyone who doesn't fit their ideal.
Yeah.
And it doesn't matter who you are or where you're from or what your beliefs are if they don't match perfectly with what they want, with what MAGA embodies, with what Trump wants.
Right, and here's the interesting thing about fascism. Fascism and authoritarianism are different. Okay, I've been reading a book about fascism lately. Try to understand what it is and how it differs and everything else. And fascism is utilitarianism personified. Do you know what utilitarianism is?
Not fully, like, not in depth.
Okay. Utilitarianism is a moral framework that basically says whatever is good for the group is what we should do. And we all have utilitarian beliefs. I certainly do, but I temper my utilitarian beliefs with value in bodily autonomy. So whatever is best for the group, I think we should do. Like getting vaccinated. That's good for the group. Morally, I think people should be getting vaccinated to help everybody, right? But, bodily autonomy does come along with this. I don't think that you should be forced to do it at the butt of a gun. You should be forced to, if you're going to partake in government programs like public schools and things like that. Imagine somebody walks into a doctor's office and they're sitting in the waiting room and there are 5 other people there with them. One person needs a lung transplant. One person needs a liver transplant. One needs a kidney. One needs a pancreas, so on and so forth. And you're completely healthy. So the doctor has a choice. Save one life by, giving you your checkup and these other 5 people die, or take one life and save 5 other lives by taking your organs, killing you, and giving them to these other people. Utilitarianism says, kill that person and give the organs to the other 5. But bodily autonomy comes into the mix and says that person's right to to control over their own bodies comes above all else. It's a spin on the trolley problem. Are you aware of the trolley problem?
Yeah, I know both of these. My debate teacher had us
right.
think about and debate both of them.
If anyone is unfamiliar, you've got one person working on tracks down the line, and you have a second set of tracks with 5 people working on it. You're standing by a switch. You can either pull the lever to save 5 people and kill the one, or do nothing, and 5 people die and 1 person survives. Morally, everybody says you should pull the lever to save 5 and kill the 1. But there are further studies on this. One study was, imagine you're standing on a bridge over the tracks, and there's a very fat man. Don't ask me why this is the test. It just is. It's a very fat man, and if you push the fat man off of the bridge, he'll be heavy enough to stop the train and save 5 people. Most people won't do it then because it takes physical contact. You're physically killing a person to save another. That's bodily autonomy thing. It's complicated. The point is that morality is complicated, but fascism is utilitarianism. Conform or else. We don't believe that being gay is good for society, so you can't be gay. We don't believe that being non-religious is okay for society, so you can't be non-religious. You must be Christian. And it differs from authoritarianism in that it needs to spread. Authoritarianism has existed since forever, but fascism has only existed for like 100 years. Not very long in the grand scheme of things. It is a reaction to democracy, a counter protest to democracy. Fascism is. The point is that MAGA pretends to want to, fit in, to want to have civil liberties, to have their rights, or they care about free speech. No, they don't. No, they don't. They never did. They never cared about free speech. They never cared about due process or any of that. They cared about you conforming the whole time. That's what it was always about.
If MAGA cared about free speech and free rights and bodily autonomy, they wouldn't care when you get an abortion or dye your hair or have a crush on another girl or another man. They wouldn't care what your pronouns are or what your gender is, but they do. They care about every single little detail about people that aren't involved with them at all. They care about things that don't affect them because they don't care about free speech or bodily autonomy.
Also, like I was saying, fascism is conform or else, and uniquely, unlike authoritarianism, it must spread. It's like fascism requires a cult of personality to exist, and everybody must agree with that cult of personality, and if they don't, then there's a problem. And inevitably, fascism always leads to genocide. That is the end result, unless it's stopped, which it is. It's stopped all the time. And I believe it's going to be stopped in this case. But that is the end of the road for a fascist regime, for a fascist situation, for a fascist group out there. The end result is genocide. Right now, we're seeing the ethnic cleansing of the United States. Maybe not quite the ethnic cleansing because they're not deporting based on ethnicity exactly, but they're damn close. Anyway, the point is that we're there. We're in it. We are in a fascist regime. So let's continue with Russell Vought now that we have an idea of who he is and what he believes.
I'm not sure this fascist regime could be sustainable after Trump dies, just for the record.
No.
I think once he's gone, that's it. I don't think MAGA doesn't really have a united leader outside of Trump, and there's absolutely no way for all of them to agree on one. And without that agreement, that's it. That's the collapse of MAGA and the far right kind of like party. I don't know what else to call it.
Absolutely. Yes.
So I think once he's gone, it'll be a lot safer.
It'll be very different for sure. It's really over for MAGA already, and they just don't realize it yet. Looking at every election that's taken place since Donald Trump won the election and has been pushing through all of these horrible things, every single time Democrats flip districts, previously voted 10% in Trump's favor, are now voting 15% in the Democrats' favor, that kind of thing, 25% split. Massive wave of votes pushing against the right. So I don't think we're going to have to deal with this again, honestly. If that gives you some kind of consolation. But let's continue with Russell Vought here.
It's interesting. He's in fact not even opposing himself to a particular policy. Yeah. He's been at our organization. He's raised money for our organization. He's blessed it from when we're walking into our last day in office and told him what I was going to do. So he's very supportive of what we do.
Our investigation into Project 2025 began 2 weeks before the meeting with Vought at a conference for religious nationalists in D.C.
The truth is, Christian nationalism is not a threat to American democracy. Christian nationalism founded American democracy.
That's just delusion. That's not true. It's a flat-out, bald-faced lie.
Okay, I'm in an AP US history class. You literally in any history class about the American, about the founding fathers, they're not Christian. They were never Christian. And why would Christian nationalism be what started the democracy of America? Where did they get that information?
They got it. Well, there are people that started making this claim long before David Barton, but David Barton is one of the key figures in this kind of movement to claim that the founding fathers were Christian nationalists. And he has this whole list of quotes that he's quote mined from people to prop up his fabricated history. He claims to be a constitutional expert. He's not. He's got a bachelor's degree in divinity or some religious thing or something. It's completely fictitious, all of it. And he actually wrote a book, David Barton did, years ago. And he's involved in this whole thing, by the way, Project 2025. He wrote this book about Christian nationalism and the founders and everything else, and it had so many lies in it that the Christian publisher pulled the book from the shelves. That is how intensely he lied in his book. I mean, that's wild. Sign up for my Patreon. I'd really appreciate that very much. It would mean so much to me. This is like a really precarious moment in history, in U.S. history, and for me personally, so it would mean a lot if you sign up for my Patreon. Check out cultarchive.org. I did a cult test, basically, where you can see if you're in a cult, and you can look at the historical tests of other groups that already went through this. Also, check out my merch. I have a whole bunch of really cool shirts and stuff. Really interesting. I would really appreciate that.
Journalists from the Center for Climate Reporting have come posing as potential donors, looking to meet those involved in Project 2025. They're not hard to find. The Heritage Foundation, the group running the project, are here. So is Vought's think tank. We make the acquaintance of Mika Meadowcroft, an author on Project 2025 and a close aide to Vought. He tells us that Vought is running the secretive second phase of Project 2025.
And the second phase, after the book came out, was to break down actual sort of policy packets and executive orders and agenda items and things like that. And that's been supervised largely by us.
The first phase of Project 2025 was a 922-page policy book published openly. The second phase is a comprehensive, concrete transition plan for each federal agency. These much more detailed plans are confidential.
Yeah. Because obviously you want as little of it to be FOIA-able, if you're familiar with the FOIA process, as possible. Freedom of Information Act, yeah.
So he'll probably explain, but the Freedom of Information Act makes it so that journalists can obtain the conversations had in a government office, like in an official capacity. And they're describing how to avoid accountability to the law.
The Freedom of Information Act allows the public to request government communications, but Meadowcroft reveals they plan to avoid these rules.
Yeah, the goal is, you familiarize all the transition team people with these plans, but you don't actually, send them to their work emails, because then, you could just give the handbooks to everyone, be like, this is the game plan for the admin. Yeah. But if the press knows that that's what you're doing, then they're going to immediately just say, I request all of your emails from Heritage. Okay. You worker.
I see.
So we'll see.
Interesting.
Meadowcroft offers to set up a meeting with his boss, Russ Vogt.
You could put me in touch with somebody who looks after his diary or whatever.
Yes, he could put you in touch with his schedule. Yeah.
Amazing.
So, yeah.
Great.
So just tell me when to do that.
Dude, I have to wonder how they got into this situation with the project. Are they pretending to be the UK branch or something of Project 2025? Like they want to implement it in the UK or something? I don't know. I don't know how they could have possibly fallen for this.
We want to meet the man writing the game plan for Trump's second administration. Vogt believes that in his first term, Trump's agenda was frustrated by what he calls the deep state. So Vogt is planning a radical centralization of government power under the president.
And that's what we're seeing. This, by the way, this video, I'm not actually sure when it's from, but I remember when it came out, 2023, maybe?
Really?
Yeah.
I don't remember how long Project 2025 plans have been out.
A long time since, really, I mean, they released Project 2025 publicly. Let me see. Let me find out.
So I remember I didn't know anything about it in 2023. And then sometime in
April 2023.
Yeah, early to mid 2024 is when I started hearing more about it and learning more about it. And then when all the election things were coming up, it was everywhere.
Yeah.
Even politicians were referencing it. Kamala Harris called him out on implementing it.
Yeah, I mean, I follow this subreddit called, I just labeled it insane in my tabs. It's called Doomer Circle Jerk. And it's basically a pro-Trump extremist subreddit that's just completely lost the plot. And they make fun of Project 2025 all the time. Oh, what happened to Project 2025? Oh, they talked about it for a week and now they don't say anything about it because it was never real. It's
it's happening.
Yes, it was. It's happening. What are you talking about? These people are just living a delusion.
Firing civil servants and ending the independence of agencies like the FBI and DOJ.
80% of my time is working on the plans of what's necessary to take control of these bureaucracies. And we are working doggedly on that.
Doggedly, what a word to use in this. Okay.
Whether it's destroying their agency's notion of independence, they're independent from the president.
Vogt has also been preparing documents based on fringe legal theories, arguing the president has the power to use the military against protesters.
Does that sound familiar? He does not have the right to use the military against protesters, and he's doing it anyway. It's all from Project 2025. They're 48% of the way done, and the next step is compulsory church attendance. So buckle up.
Is that really the next section?
Yep.
They're going in chronological order,
No,
right?
they're not going in chronological order. They're doing the things that they want to do.
And the easiest things.
Yeah, and the easiest dominoes to fall. And church attendance is coming up. It is next on the list. It's one of the next few things that they plan to do, yes.
I don't know, I just really want to see them make attempts to implement that.
They wouldn't force you to attend church. I'll tell you what they'd probably do is they would force you to pay a church tithe and to some church, any church. And then they would pick and choose which churches they considered to be legitimate.
Oh, I was about to say we could just create our own with a tithe of $0.
No, tithe is 10%. So they would pick which church, or they'd pick which churches were legitimate, and then they would pressure churches to give them lists of people who were not attending regularly, that kind of thing. Yeah, it's on the list. They did this exact thing in Germany. Everybody was on church rolls. The government, there was no separation of church and state in Germany at all at the time.
Do you have to pay to go to church?
I mean, tithing is 10%. You don't have to pay every time you go, and it's voluntary right now. But most people do pay 10%. Yeah.
Did we pay? Not we.
We have never paid.
But like Mama D.
Yes. Mormonism is compulsory. You must pay 10% to be a member of your earnings. So like the books that we've read by Mormon authors, Brandon Sanderson, for example, 10% of the money that we paid him for that book went to the Mormon church.
Who wrote Deathstalker?
He's not Mormon.
Okay.
Simon R. Green, yeah. Anyway,
so
that's why I don't pay for books all the time. Most of the time. You should pay for books. I'm just saying sometimes. Morally.
Nice save there.
I always pay for books.
Yeah,
Always.
nice
every
save.
time. I'm just saying.
So, okay, so our families are paying to go to church. We're paying to go to church when they were alive.
You didn't know?
No, and those are such small churches, and we made food for them every week. I feel like
that was part of the tithe.
Especially if you're like making the way our church worked is we had like 2 or like 3 very distinct families in the churches, ours included, and we would switch off making food every week, and we made a ton of food for the entire
like
church.
50 people. Yeah.
If you're making, like it took us literally all day. It started like, I don't know, 9 a.m. after the kids were already at school. And then when the kids got home, we helped them. We got everyone ready and we helped them finish up the food and pack the cars and everything. If you're making food for your church for like 50 people, you shouldn't be paying any money to attend. You shouldn't be paying any
it's not
tithe.
compulsory in most cases. Like they're just being nice because they support the church. And church does offer a lot. It offers community and things, but
we did have a community, that's true. Anyways.
All right, let's continue.
George Floyd obviously was not about race. It was about destabilizing the Trump administration.
Right. These people live in a delusion where they're always the victims. By the way, again, another tenet of fascism. Your enemy has to be simultaneously too weak to govern effectively and too strong to overcome. And you are a perpetual victim of that enemy.
We put out, for instance, a 50-page paper designed for lawyers to know that the president has, the ability both along the border and elsewhere to maintain law and order with the military, and that's something that it's going to be important for him to remember and his lawyers to affirm. But we've given them the case for that.
With loyalists installed in key government agencies and armed with his playbook, Vogt believes a radical Christian nationalist agenda can be realized under a second Trump presidency.
That's what Project 2025 is all about, is a Christian nationalist state.
For example, on abortion.
So I think the president's actually come up with a strategy that works so long as you are giving people like me in the government the ability to block funding for Planned Parenthood, block funding for fetal tissue research. But what I've told people is he had the most pro-life record ever.
I don't know if that's true. I mean, George W. Bush is pretty anti-choice.
I've never seen him to stand in the way of a pro-life initiative that actually was real, politically and with momentum.
And for Vogt, Trump's pick for vice.
And everything he did stand against obviously wasn't real and not whatever, because he could never do anything wrong.
Right.
For Vogt, Trump's pick for vice president shows he's serious about pushing this ideological agenda when in power.
So I am very happy with the
Remember, this is like 2.5 years old, this video is. 2.5 years old.
JD pick. I think it's transformative for sure. Yeah. And he's, think of him as a member version of what we do.
Yeah.
So there's no think tank, no policy organization, no battle plan creator other than us for the worldview that I think Donald Trump has and that JD has.
But as public backlash against these plans builds, the Trump campaign has been scrambling to distance themselves from Project 2025's authors.
It's complete and utter bullshit for any reporter to write that this is the way it is. The president has made it clear these people do not speak for him. They do not speak for the campaign.
This guy's just lying, obviously. We now know these are all flat out bald-faced lies. He's lying. It's just disgusting. Like, this undercover footage is horrifying, and even more horrifying was this from July, the July before Trump is elected. So we're like, 3, 4, 5 months before the election takes place. This is another writer of Project 2025, Kevin Roberts, the leader of the Heritage Foundation.
Radical left. You and I have both been parts of faculties and faculty senates and understand that the left has taken over our institutions. The reason that they are apoplectic right now, the reason that so many anchors on MSNBC, for example, are losing their minds daily is because our side is winning. And so I come full circle in this response and just want to encourage you with some substance that we are in the process of the Second American Revolution, which will remain bloodless if the left allows it to be.
That's horrifying. That's straight up horrifying. Anyway, tell me what you think about it in the comments.